United Nations calls for justice in the Borno killings of farm workers. Nigeria's real estate experts call for more affordable housing to cushion effects of economic recession. In international news, drug maker Moderna applies for U.S. emergency authorization for its coronavirus vaccine. And in sports, Nigeria Cricket Federation set to unveil former Sri Lanka international as coach.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has reported 145 new cases of coronavirus in the country on Monday. Lagos took a chunk of that figure, 49, leading the Federal Capital Territory by 15. Kaduna tied with the FCT at 34, while Plateau recorded 11. Oyo, Bayelsa, Taraba, and Sokoto respectively confirmed 7, 5, 4, and 1. Altogether, the country now has 67,557 cases, of which only 4,175 cases are active. As at Monday, a total of 1,173 deaths have been recorded across the country. Senate President Ahmed Lawan has led a federal government's delegation on a condolence trip to Borno State on Monday after the weekend killings of farmers by Boko Haram terrorists. On the team were the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, Ministers of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello, Communications and Digital Economy, Ali Pantami, and the Minister of State for Agriculture, Mustafa Babashihuri. Also on the team are the National Security Advisor, retired Major General Babagana Munguno, and Senior Special Assistants, Media and Publicity to the President, Garba Shehu. Lawan's media aide, Ezra Tabiowa, says the delegation was representing the President and the federal government to convey the nation's condolences to the government and people of Borno State over the incident. The United Nations is calling for justice in the Borno State terrorist gruesome killings of rice farm workers. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says the federal government must ensure that those who perpetrated the atrocities must be brought to justice. The UN boss says he condemns the killings and abductions in the strongest terms. Guterres reassured Nigeria of continued UN commitment to supporting the nation in its fight against terrorism, violent extremism, and response to humanitarian needs. Meanwhile, the world body has backed off its earlier report of 110 victims. It says that figure was inaccurate, reverting to the unconfirmed number issued by OCHA earlier. The UN now says it is reporting that an unspecified number of farmers were killed. And contrary to its statements, the Nigerian presidency appears to have blamed the victims of the Borno killings for their own deaths. In a BBC interview on Monday, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the 43 farmers killed by Boko Haram on Saturday did not have military clearance to be on the rice farms when they were attacked and killed by Boko Haram. He said his remarks were not to blame the victims, but to tell the truth. Reactions around the country are that the statements actually confirmed the opposite. Shehu said much of the area had been liberated from Boko Haram terrorists, but a number of locations have not been cleared for displaced villagers to return. He said this means the settlers and farmers must ensure the areas are cleared by the military before resuming activities there. Many comments questioned whether the government had put in place awareness programs that instructed villagers and farmers on which areas to avoid. Fugitive former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Team, Abdulrashid Maina, has been arrested in Niger Republic by Nigeria's intelligence service and anti-corruption agents. A top intelligence officer told the media this was possible because of the existing mutual relationship and security agreement between the two countries. Maina faces a 12-count money laundering charge filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, that says Maina had used his company to launder about 2 billion naira. The anti-graft agency also charges that Maina had used part of the legal proceeds to acquire properties in Abuja. Maina jumped bail, causing the detention of Senator Ali Ndume, who had stood as a surety for him. Ndume was freed on Friday. Nigeria is currently in a recession that is described as the worst in nearly 40 years. So many economic activities and lifestyles will be disrupted as a result. So real estate experts in the country are calling on the federal government to invest in rural and urban housing development to support the nation's economic growth. They say such an investment would help Nigeria succeed in its efforts to reverse the current recession. The association says the coronavirus pandemic would be compounded by the recession. During the second Jakonde Housing Lecture Series in Lagos, Association President Dr. Aliyu Wakamo pointed out the unsuitability of the quality of housing infrastructure in Nigeria, where residents have no access to hygienic sanitation facilities and to water. He said these had made an impact during the coronavirus lockdown when people were required to wash hands regularly. He wondered how this would have been possible in inadequate shelter that lacked requisite infrastructure, including water, to wash hands. He called on the government to concentrate on stimulating the economy through massive housing construction and infrastructure development. Coming up, African news. Tunisia's credit rating downgraded to negative. And later, international news. Drug maker Moderna applies for U.S. emergency authorization for its coronavirus vaccine.
You are watching ANN.
it up.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. The leader of the Tigray People's Liberation Front, Debretsion Gebremichael, says his troops are still fighting against the Ethiopia military near the city of Mekelle, which was seized by government troops over the weekend. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has already declared the conflict over. Some media observers say a drawn-out guerrilla war is possible in the region. Prime Minister Ahmed told Parliament no civilian had been killed in the nearly month-long military offensive. He also accused the TPLF of being behind more than 100 ethnic and religious conflicts over the last 2 years. Both statements have not been verified because the Ethiopian government has reportedly cut off all phone lines and the internet in Tigray region. Aid agencies are expressing great concern about the impact the war is having on the civilian population. Fitch Ratings company has downgraded Tunisia's sovereign credit rating outlook to negative from stable and affirmed the debt grade at B. Fitch says the revision is triggered by a worsening of fiscal liquidity risk from a sharp deterioration in public finances and the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on broad macroeconomic environments. This would have a big impact on Tunisia's borrowing costs. Correspondent Adnin Chawochi reports.
Tunisia's Minister of Economy, Finance and Investment Promotion declared that Fitch Ratings has taken into consideration the latest negative economic indicators during the pandemic.
Fitch Ratings have evaluated the public finances and the latest economic situation in Tunisia. We are aware of the challenges and we aim to improve the situation by taking seriously all the recommendations. Despite the global health and economic crisis, Tunisia aims to put in place structural economic reforms.
The ratings agency also noted that inflation in the North African state would average 5.6% in 2020-2021. It added that it projected the central government deficit to widen to 10.5% of GDP in 2020 from 3.3% in 2019.
Our top priority is to reduce the payroll expenditure, reduce the deficit, and boost the purchasing power of Tunisians while reducing inflation in order to face this difficult economic and health situation. We want to increase the competitiveness of SMEs which suffer due to the pandemic. The state wants strong companies which can increase jobs and revive the national economy.
Fitch Ratings projects economic growth will recover to 4% in 2021. The Tunisian government also expects the same positive growth. However, the Finance Commission at Parliament has warned the government that several local and external factors may hinder the achievement of this forecast.
The government and the rating agency's projections are too optimistic. It's impossible to reach a 4% growth in 2021 because the pandemic and the crisis will not end in December. The world is in fact expecting a third wave of COVID-19. Therefore, production in various sectors and export will not resume normally. This is completely unrealistic.
The finance minister forecasts a rise in gross domestic product (GDP) of 4%, investments of 17% and exports of 10%. Ali Kali believes that the current account deficit will be 8%, while the inflation rate will be closer to 5% in 2021. The recent indicators provided by the Ministry of Economy, Finance and Investment Promotion show that reducing the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and improving the production of phosphates, oil and tourism could help boost growth in the next 12 months.
Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrived in Juba on Saturday on his first state visit to South Sudan. Egyptian presidency spokesman says el-Sisi's visit to South Sudan will witness the Egyptian-South Sudanese summit. Correspondent Patrick Oyet reports.
President Salva Kiir's office says the visit shows deepening diplomatic ties between South Sudan and Egypt.
President Sisi expressed his readiness to support implementation of the revitalized peace agreement where he is required to help. He also pledged Egyptian full support in alleviating some of the challenges facing us, such as the impact of falling oil prices, COVID-19 pandemic, and recent devastating flood across the country.
South Sudan's government says the meeting also discussed regional stability, including South Sudan's 2018 peace deal's implementation. Egypt has been donating food and medical supplies for South Sudan's armed forces that are in camps for retraining as a result of the 2018 peace agreement. And Cairo is pledging more support for Juba.
We explored ways to promote bilateral relations between the two countries in political, military and security coordination during this critical stage in the region. In addition, we want to pursue economic and trade areas and encourage Egyptian investments in South Sudan for the benefit of the two countries.
The United Nations Refugee Agency says Egypt is a host to 18,000 South Sudanese refugees. South Sudan's government says it also agreed to cooperate with Egypt in the field of water resources and irrigation. Egypt says its vision is that Nile water should be a source of cooperation and development for all the Nile Basin people.
When we return, international news. Drug maker Moderna applies for U.S. emergency authorization for its coronavirus vaccine. And later, sports. Nigeria Cricket Federation sets to unveil new coach.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Drug maker Moderna has filed for U.S. and European emergency regulatory approval of its coronavirus vaccine for widespread use. It is now left for regulators to look at trial data for the mRNA vaccine and decide if it is safe and effective enough to recommend for rollout. Clinical studies have revealed the vaccine is more than 94% effective at protecting against COVID-19 infection. Another drug maker, Pfizer, has already filed for the U.S. emergency approval for its own vaccine. UK regulators are reviewing data for emergency approval of the Pfizer, AstraZeneca and Oxford University coronavirus vaccines. Moderna says it hopes to gain UK approval soon, now that it has trial data from 30,000 volunteers, including the elderly. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has confirmed public elementary schools will begin reopening next Monday. The largest public school system in the country closed in November when the city reached a 7-day COVID-19 testing positivity average of 3%. Meanwhile, middle and high schools will remain closed. There are more than 1 million students in New York City's public school system, and around 330,000 students could be eligible to return to school under this plan. And Canada's COVID-19 deaths have passed another grim milestone of 12,000 fatalities. The country also recorded 5,468 new cases of coronavirus infections, which pushed the total number of confirmed cases to 370,000. More than 290,000 persons have recovered from the virus. A new report from an epidemiology analysis showed about 90% of those who died were seniors from 70 years and older. The data also shows a significant increase in patients hospitalized from the virus. Spanish health workers are dancing and banging drums in the streets of Madrid, protesting against the salary cuts which they say has made it difficult for them to cope amid the pandemic. Madrid's conservative regional government has denied cutting health services. Correspondent Rahul Pathak has the story.
Another day, another march from Spanish healthcare workers here in Madrid. Now, once again, they're protesting against the right-wing Madrid regional government, saying they want to protect public healthcare services amid the coronavirus crisis. Now, seemingly every week, these healthcare workers come out onto the streets, they protest, they march, they make demonstrations. The question is, are any of these demonstrations have any effect whatsoever?
We know the regional government is aware that we're protesting, but they're not taking any action. This government is not sitting down to negotiate with us or anyone at all.
The government is not acting. They won't bother to take action because of one march or 10. We need to stick together and say enough is enough of this situation in the healthcare system.
Now, for their part, the Madrid government have the same answer to all of these protests, that they're organised by the unions and are therefore politically motivated. And they will insist that they are pumping money into the public healthcare system. Proof of that is the brand new coronavirus hospital, which is opening on December the 1st, which is costing them around $60 million. However, for the many of the doctors and nurses that we've been speaking to over the past few weeks, they say that money would have been far better served being spent on the existing public healthcare system.
Up next, sport. Nigeria Cricket Federation sets to unveil new coach. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN. Somewhere in the world, every second of the day, news is happening. And of course, Nigeria is bustling with news day and night. That is why ANN doesn't sleep. Our eyes are peeled, wide open, so no story escapes our radar. We stay abreast of world events and happenings at home. We keep you up to the minute in the world of sports. We give you information to stay on top of your investments and all the hard facts you need to navigate your day. If you miss us on air, you can keep up to date on our website and on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. We are ANN, Africa News Network. We do news right in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News in Sport. The Nigeria Cricket Federation is set to unveil former Sri Lanka international Asanka Gurusinha as its new team manager. 44-year-old Gurusinha was a member of Sri Lanka's 1996 World Cup winning team. In addition to overseeing the national cricket team, Gurusinha will also be involved with training local coaches. Manchester United striker Edison Cavani could face a 3-game ban if the Football Association finds him guilty of using the racist language "Gracias Negrito" in an Instagram story he shared on Sunday evening. The FA says it is investigating the post, which was published shortly after United's 3-2 win against Southampton. At the start of this season, the FA issued fresh guidelines on racist language and behavior on social media, with offences carrying a minimum ban of 3 matches. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatuji. Have a pleasant evening.